On Halloween night in 1968, something really scary happened in a small town called Mill Valley. A girl named Stella wanted to have some fun, so she and her friends decided to explore a spooky old house in the middle of the night. This castle was built over 200 years ago and ended up being owned by the Bellows family. People said there was a mysterious girl in their family named Sarah, who was kept locked up in a room and hardly anyone in town had seen her. But Sarah used to tell scary stories to the kids from behind the walls. After hearing these stories, something strange happened. All the kids who heard the stories died in a weird way. Because of a curse from Sarah, like she was a witch or something. Just before the police gate, Sarah did something really strange. She hung herself in her house using her hair. They thought everything was just a story to scare kids. Stella really found a secret room in the house. The secret room was filled with cobwebs. On the other hand, two boys excitedly roamed around the castle. To play a prank on his friend, Zach had a sudden idea to hide in the bedroom closet. Zach cautiously opened the closet door, only to be completely shocked by what he saw. The originally dilapidated bedroom was now brightly lit, and there was a strange old lady and a dog in the room. Just as the boy was puzzled, the old lady slowly turned her head towards him, frightening Zach, who quickly closed the closet door. Strangely, the outside instantly returned to its original appearance. Zach hurried downstairs to find Stella and the others. At this point, he didn't want to stay there any longer. The two boys were so shocked and they saw the secret room that they couldn't say a word, unable to fathom that everything from the legends could actually be true. In the corner of the room, Stella found a book, and the author of this book turned out to be the mysterious Sarah Bellows. Rumors said that this book was written with Sarah's blood and contained a mysterious and terrifying power. Zach was scared and wanted to leave immediately. Unexpectedly, at this moment, their archenemy Tommy, who had secretly followed them to explore the haunted house, quietly locked the entrance to the secret room when they weren't paying attention, then arrogantly turned and left. While everyone was figuring out how to leave, Stella was still immersed in the horror stories of Sarah. She was captivated by the stories inside, even daydreaming that Sarah would appear immediately to tell her a story. At Stella's summoning, the shadow silently reached the entrance of the secret room and helped everyone open the door. Back home, Stella immediately opened the book, eager to read every story inside. But she soon noticed that the last page about herself wasn't fully settled, as if it had just been written. What was even more eerie was that the protagonist of this story was also named Tommy. As soon as he got home, his mother assigned him to deliver eggs to the neighbors. While he went to the warehouse to fetch the eggs, a massive shadow filled the air. Tommy, carrying the eggs, passed through a dried-up cornfield, with an ugly scarecrow standing in the center of the farm. Every time he saw it, Tommy couldn't resist kicking it a couple of times, and this time was no exception. Tommy had a bit to drink, staggering forward. Surprisingly, not far away, he saw another scarecrow. However, he distinctly remembered there was only one in the farm. Tommy didn't think much of it and continued forward. But strangely, ahead, there was once again a pole with a scarecrow, but the scarecrow was nowhere to be found. Tommy's drunkenness instantly cleared up quite a bit. As soon as he turned around, the scarecrow appeared directly in front of him. What was even more terrifying was that the next moment, Tommy saw the scarecrow walking towards him. Tommy grabbed the pitchfork and fiercely stabbed at it. In return, it gave Tommy a chilling sensation. Tommy struggled to keep running towards home, but he quickly noticed a change in his body. Countless dry straws continuously poured out from his body, and even his limbs slowly turned into the appearance of a scarecrow. The police searched the whole night but couldn't find any trace of Tommy. They only found his clothes on a scarecrow, and this strangely matched exactly with the terrifying story in the cursed book. Legend has it that on Halloween night, a girl not only dared to explore a haunted house with her friends but also brought back a cursed horror storybook. Soon, her friends, just as written in the book, transformed from lively bodies into dried-up straw figures. Realizing that the book was the cause of the disaster, Stella returned to the castle and placed the book back where it belonged. But unexpectedly, when Stella returned home that night, she once again found the book in her bedroom, as if it were a nightmare haunting her that couldn't be shaken off. What's even scarier is that the horror stories in the book began a new chapter. Stella tried desperately to prevent the story from unfolding, but no matter how many times she tore the pages, the terrifying tales in the book persisted. The protagonist of the story became her good friend Auggie. Stella quickly grabbed the walkie-talkie to notify Auggie. At that moment, he took out the stew his parents had prepared for him from the fridge. After reading the story, Stella warned him not to eat anything. However, Auggie didn't take it seriously and proceeded to eat a large piece of meat. But he soon realized something was wrong. The taste of today's stew was unusually strange. When he looked closer, he discovered it was an almost rotten toe. Auggie was immediately disgusted and began vomiting uncontrollably. A creepy voice echoed through the house. Terrified, Auggie quickly hid in his bedroom and locked the door. A tall and horrifying corpse appeared in the corridor, dragging its incomplete body slowly towards him. Auggie managed to hide under the bed, staring outside without daring to breathe. The locked door slowly creaked open, but it seemed like nothing entered. Nervously scanning the surroundings, Auggie didn't notice anything unusual. He cautiously peeked out to inspect. But at that moment, when Stella and the others arrived, it was already too late. Auggie's presence in the room was gone, leaving only a long string of nails on the floor under the bed. Stella gathered the remaining 3 people, all of whom had visited the castle that night, realizing that the next victim could be one of them. Zach suggested immediately calling the police, but who would believe such a fantastical ghost story? In an attempt to burn the cursed storybook, they realized how naive the idea was. To break the curse within the book, they began investigating everything about the castle and Sarah. The Bellows family had operated a paper mill in the town, which was forced to close after the incident. They also discovered that the names of all Bellows family members appeared in different stories in the book, suggesting that their disappearance was not as simple as it seemed. At the same time, they found a report stating that Sarah's black maid and her daughter taught him black magic. Fortunately, the maid's daughter is still alive. But before they could take action, the terrifying stories in the book started once again, writing themselves. This time, the protagonist of the story became Lucy. Lucy was preparing for tonight's wild party. A pimple appeared on her face. Strangely, it started growing at a visible speed, and even more horrifyingly, something seemed to be wriggling inside the pimple. Suddenly, a black hair emerged from it, startling the girl into a scream. She attempted to pull out the hair in pain, but to her surprise, it moved on its own. In the next moment, countless spiders crawled out of the girl's face, quickly covering her entire body. Stella and the others arrived in time, and everyone was stunned by the scene before them. Zach brought a bucket of water, finally dispersing the creepy crawlies on Lucy. Lucy narrowly escaped the ordeal and was urgently taken to the hospital for treatment. However, the remaining 3 were still in danger. If they couldn't break the curse within the book soon, they were at risk of being written to death by it. The 3 of them went to great lengths to find the daughter of the black maid from the past. Now an elderly man with most of his body in the grave, immediately recognizing it as the gift given to Sarah back in the day. The old lady denied the existence of black magic, stating that the book was the only light in Sarah's dark and oppressive life. They shouldn't take away someone's spiritual sanctuary. The old lady then became delirious, uttering nonsensical words. Despite this, they obtained crucial information from the old lady's daughter. Sarah did not die in the castle as believed but hung herself in the hospital. The investigation by the trio took an unexpected turn when they arrived at the hospital. Stella and Raymond stealthily entered the hospital records room, leaving Zach to stand guard outside. They quickly found Sarah's medical records, unveiling the truth of an old, buried secret. It turned out that Sarah suffered from a severe case of albinism. Back then, people regarded her as a monstrous presence, and following the principle of keeping family secrets, she was locked in the basement. The deaths of the town's children were not connected to Sarah. Instead, it was due to the watermark in the polluted water discharged by the Bellows family's paper mill. To divert attention and confuse everyone, they used various tortures to torment Sarah, forcing her to tell ghost stories to the children, giving rise to the later horrifying legends. At this moment, the tone of the voice in the phonograph suddenly changed, and a new story appeared in the book again. Who was guarding outside, suddenly found himself in a strange space. Everything around him turned blood red in an instant. He desperately ran and shouted, but there was an eerie silence all around. He couldn't see anyone, nor could he hear any sound. He saw an enchanting woman in a thin veil slowly approaching him, turned and ran, but no matter which direction he chose, he always ended up in front of the monster. As her heart reached the edge of collapse, could only let the monster embrace her, and then body slowly merged with the monster. Stella and Raymond were brought to the police station for intruding into the records room. However, the police chief didn't believe their tales of a horror storybook making a person disappear into thin air. He considered it the biggest joke he had heard since birth. The two were temporarily detained in the holding cell. The police chief flipped through the storybook only to find a new story magically appearing and the ink not yet completely dry. Just then, a thunderous clap echoed, and the police station immediately plunged into darkness. The police dogs stared fixedly at a dark corner, as if they had seen something terrifying. Stella and Raymond became instantly alert, a foreboding sense of unease taking hold. In the next moment, a severed head rolled to the feet of the police chief. The chief, startled, raised his gun and fired several shots in quick succession, but none managed to harm the entity. Following that, numerous dismembered limbs fell from above, autonomously assembling into a grotesque monster. Before the police chief could react, he was swiftly dispatched by the creature, its neck twisted. The monster barged into the holding cell, heading towards Raymond. It then used its limbs to cling to the iron cage, attempting to break through to deal with Raymond. Stella, with Raymond, escaped. They split up afterward, with Raymond driving a police car to lure the monster away. It moved swiftly, leaping onto the police car before it had gone far, exerting all its strength to try to shatter the glass. Raymond executed an emergency brake, trapping the monster on the car's hood. Then, abruptly changing direction, he rammed into a large truck. Stella rushed into the castle, hysterically shouting for Sarah. That Sarah had been wrongly accused and unjustly killed. Stella was willing to help him clear the more than 100 years of stigma, hoping that Sarah could cease the continued killing. The castle immediately transformed its appearance. Stella instantly found in the scene of those years, experiencing firsthand the tragic fate that Sarah had suffered, ultimately being heartlessly confined to the secret room by his own family. Raymond also entered the castle. However, strangely, the two were not in the same space. Raymond could clearly hear Stella's cries, yet before him was still a scene of desolation. The monster followed them here, and Raymond had to shuttle between rooms, avoiding the monster's attacks. Where Sarah's soul quickly appeared, mentioning that he had a special story to tell Stella. In the midst of it all, Stella seemed to hear Raymond's inner voice, encouraging to bravely reveal the truth of that year. As Sarah's ghost approached Stella, the scene unfolded. Stella empathized with Sarah's experiences, standing in her shoes and sharing the injustices she had faced with Raymond. However, all those wrongs were committed by the Bellows family in the past. Stella emphasized that the resentment should not be transferred to their friends. At the same time, Stella assured Sarah that she would uncover the truth of those years, making everyone aware of the injustice Sarah had suffered and restoring her innocence. Touched by Stella's words, Sarah handed her a pen and asked her to write the story using her own blood. After hearing Stella's promise, Sarah decided to let go of her lingering grievances and dissipated with a reluctant roar. Simultaneously, the monster around Raymond also fell apart, and everything around him returned to its original state. Back in reality, Stella kept her promise, writing Sarah's true story and sharing it with the public. Although many people doubted its authenticity, she enriched the town's stories with more details.